These regionals have been producing some of the most interesting results. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more content. You really said that we needed a ban list out here, but looking at how the numbers have been sliding out here, it's almost like we just had a ban list in the form of a new set. So I believe this is the Wien regional is the pronunciation for it, or Wien. I don't know, man. Doesn't change the impact of the regional overall. So we had 3 Vanquish Soul decks in your top cut. Honestly, I'm not surprised to still see that Vanquish Soul has been wrecking house out here. This deck has been producing some of the best results that we have been seeing, and honestly, duelists are kind of having a hard time kind of adapting. Now, we also had 2 Mitsurugi variants in this top cut. It's also really good to still see that Mitsurugi is still a deck. One of the things I was worried about was Mitsu kind of falling off, but as we are, seeing these results kind of sliding around here, that deck is still doing very, very well. We also have a Maliss deck in this top cut, which actually ended up getting 2nd place, which I think was really, really reassuring to be seeing, because, Maliss, most of us were like, hey, a lot of people are starting to kind of cut these Lancias out of their side deck, so maybe the deck will finally have some success, and I have been seeing the scales tipping a little bit more in favor of that. We also did have a Dracotail variant. Now, this Dracotail variant actually is more focusing on the branded side of things. So when we get the chance to take a look at that deck list here in a second, you'll get to see the advantages in the shifting on that behalf. And we also did have a yummy list making its way into Top Cut. I gotta tell you, some of these events is either just a massive yummy blowout, or Vanquish Soul is the one that's kind of running the show. That's why I said it's so interesting to see as we shift from region to region here, where certain decks are going to be more popular versus others. And it's that kind of stuff that we love to see. Let's pass on over to those deck lists. All right, so our first list here is actually going to be Maliss Canine. Now, I had not really thought that anybody would be incorporating the Canine package into Maliss, because this is the first that I have seen of this working. Now, not even the OCG was very adept to wanting to test this package, and honestly, I can understand why, but being able to shift on down into the Ripper does kind of guarantee that you're not going to die to some sort of offhanded hand trap. And, I know somebody's going to be like, well, actually, does an impulse conflict? No, it doesn't, man. All right, the Azuna is probably going to be coming down 99% of the time before you're even slamming this impulse on the table. Also, keep in mind, we are down to 1 Maliss trap in the main deck. The Maliss traps have not felt super good in quite some time. So to see that, we're basically cutting back on a lot of that fat and actually producing, honestly, better streamlined results here, I feel like is a very welcoming change. Also, this build is going with triple March Hare. There was a lot of argument fairly recently to be cutting down on March Hares, just rolling in with 2 of them and getting the job done, which, I can understand the argument on that. I also see we are playing a Link Disciple here, man. Getting a free tribute to draw 1 actually is not a terrible thing. We also have the additional trap card in the side deck if we need. I see that we have Rivalry as well to bring in, but if this is going to be more of the standard that Maliss is going to head towards, I don't hate this evolution. Honestly, this kind of feels very, very nice having the canine stuff in here. Just kind of back you up. Double Chesty Cat I think works out just fine. And I do think that Impulse is kind of non-negotiable at this point. Next up here, our Vanquish Soul variant. Now, I will say I'm really happy to see that somebody is actually main decking Phantasme. I have been very pro Phantasme for this deck for so long, because Phantasme, if your opponent, you got 2 big decks in the room. Yummy's going to be Link summoning their Link 1. They're forced to make their Link 1, which is going to turn this Phantasme into a draw 2, put back 1, gets the body on the field for the protection, and also gives you another body to work with. Also, how many of these dead cards could you possibly run into? And I also actually like the fact that this build is main decking the Shifter. I really, really like Shifter. I think that Shifter is probably one of the more important cards you can actually be working with right now. Because if you do see this card, it feels pretty much like an auto blowout about 99% of the time. So if you're really looking at trying to play this deck without Shifter, I would at least consider it in the side deck. Also, you do see that we have Anti-Spell Fragrance down here as well. Anti-Spell against Yummy does kind of feel like a very unfair card, because the minute you flip this, you know, the player's going to kind of look at you and they're going to go, oh, great, you know, now I have to deal with, you know, this. And it does create some problems. I also do see that this build is doing the Arc Rebellion Xyz play for the OTK, which I think is fine. And we are going with the C104 just for the life point half, just to be able to, you know, get the job done. Also, dear old Zeusy boy helping things out along the way, but no additional Link monster. We've seen some builds trying Underworld Goddess, the Virus Swordsman. I think you can be without those, you know, and so, you know, we have something like Typhoon in here to kind of clean up, you know, any real problematic things that might be coming up. Ooh, we have a pile for you here. Now, you got to remember, Branded and the Dracotail pretty much go together because, you know, the big things are you've got an overlay of dragons and spellcasters. Guess what? All of this stuff is going to be making you can fusion summon a dragon or a spellcaster. Oh, look, this also lets you fusion summon, which is really, really funny. Well, of course, good news, everybody. With everything you got going on here, you're fine. Now, I do see we are playing Grista in here. This is for a fire monster. I don't think we're playing... Maybe this is beyond my comprehension of what we got working with here. Interesting. I see that we have... actually, the fact that this deck has a lot of going second tools. It's actually kind of interesting. You have the Dark Ruler No Mores. You also have access to the Evenly Matches in here. You're also going with 1/1 of each of the traps. I love the fact that even in 60, you're just like, yeah, just play one of each of the traps. You don't want to bulk down too much on the fat, which is very realistic considering the fact, you know, how much you got going on here. We're also going with 2 Fallen of Albaz. I think that this is correct. Double Fallen of Albaz should initially get the job done for you. I understand that, you know, you're probably going to look at the deck building space and you're going to go, oh, you know, we can kick out an Albaz. Don't do that. Don't do that. I've seen one Albaz builds, and they feel bad, man. They really, really do. Outside of that, I mean, this is our fire monster to toggle into this. That's fine. I think everything down here, this extra deck is very, very tight for what you've got going on, but realistically, I think it's fine. Also, shout out to Shaddoll Fusion for being a dummy card, man. And we have Yummy for you. Yay! Shout out to actually playing the Crossout Designator in the main deck, man. I feel like I have not seen anybody taking up the helm of Crossout Designator right now. And I mean, crossing out an obedience school could mean life or death. Actually, if you do run into the mirror match, that is hilariously an option. I do see that this build is also maximizing on triple engage. I have read so many reports where people just don't like even playing this card as a 2-of. So if you're maximizing this as a 3-of, that's a little bit interesting. I also see that this list is main decking Droll. Obviously there's no Purge down here, which, I'll be honest with you, I think Purge is a pretty mandatory card for this deck, especially for, you know, once you kind of get things off. But if you don't have the money to afford Purges, and, you know, you're kind of left to make concessions, then yeah, bumping this up, you know, having Drolls in the main deck, having things like the Ghost Bells in here, those are what I would consider acceptable concessions in order to get things going. Also, shout out to Rivalry of the Warlords down here. If you thought every other deck in the format was being a pain in the butt with some sort of haha funny floodgate moment that they could flip to win the game, this is another case of, you know, the auto win buttons. It's so good. Every deck can flip a floodgate now. TC Boo goes in match Rivalry, but what do you guys think about this breakdown? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.